know this is outside of our regularly scheduled time frame, but just had a couple of minutes between updating things in the weather department and working on some technical support issues, and I wanted to pop over here and just update you guys and gals on what's going on in the tropics. Of course, we've got a lot to track, and we are tracking it. Of course, first thing we're monitoring. Invest 94 there on the kind of center of your screen. We're going to take a closer look at it. And then we've got Tropical Storm Umberto, and both of them still looking like they're going to at least interact somewhat with each other. Kind of interesting scenarios here. So let's start off and see what's doing. First and foremost, with Tropical Storm Umberto. Storm system certainly looking healthy today. The 5 p.m. advisory carries winds of about 60 miles an hour. It's moving to the northwest at 6, and the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center does carry this storm system up to a strengthening status. Here's a look at the latest cone, Cat 1. Cat 2. Eventually, we think this becomes a Category 3, a major hurricane. Okay, so it's kind of getting stronger and stronger today, no doubt about it. But we are going to be looking at a stronger scenario here over the next couple of days' time. So that's Umberto. Okay, the storm system, little by little, getting better, organized. We look at the intensity models, and they don't joke around. I mean, this is why the National Hurricane Center has gone ahead and said that Umberto will probably become a major hurricane. Just look at the model intensity guidance from the National Hurricane Center's computer systems and look at Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Cat 3, even some of those models showing a Category 4 storm. So, yeah, it gets stronger and stronger. That's Umberto. That is not the storm system that we anticipate coming to Florida or the coastal waters. The good news is none of the models are showing anything coming to Florida. That said, though, there may be a close pass. Let me show you this is Invest 94, and still at least technically the center of circulation. We think if there is circulation or the center of the storm system itself hanging out around Hispaniola and along its northern shoreline. Now, I will add that somebody had mentioned, Ryan on YouTube says that the Fujiwara effect can be unpredictable, so many variables. That's absolutely the case. And that's one of the reasons why this is a very, very difficult storm system to predict. And we're going to do the best we can. But this is not going to be a home run. This is not going to be an easy thing. Now, Invest 94 is scooting. It's moving to the northwest at about 17 or so miles an hour. The official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, when we look at the development chances, does call for this to develop. We think over the next 7 days' time, there's a 90% likelihood it forms. Over the next 2 days' time, there is an 80% likelihood that this forms. Notice it should kind of work over the Bahamas, the Turks Caicos, the Bahamas, and then curve and lift north away from Florida. And I want to make sure to point that out. This should stay east of Florida. That doesn't mean that it's going to be completely without impact to Florida, but it should stay east of Florida. Now, what about the intensity models for Invest 94? Let's take a look at those together, okay? Not as bullish as what we saw with Umberto. This is a storm system that should get going, but does look like it's going to want to stay a little bit weaker. Okay, here's a look at the latest intensity model data from the, of course, it doesn't want to, I love that so much. I love that. I've been fighting technical gremlins today. There's a prime example of it. There it goes. All right, I think we're going to get it back. There we go. All right, excellent. So the intensity models do bring this to tropical storm status. Most of the intensity models do not bring this to hurricane status. So it's something to watch. But thankfully, we're not looking at this becoming anything too big and powerful, we don't think. That said, though, it should be fairly close to our coastline, right? So here's a look at the models to kind of give you an idea of how this progresses, okay? The computer models, at least tropical computer models, basically take it up the East Coast and eventually move it ashore somewhere into the Carolinas. Now, if we wanted to take and look at that with timing, because I know that that's going to be a big thing that everybody wants to look at here, right? So here's the timeline with the computer models, all right? So let's just follow this through time. Saturday, there's Saturday afternoon, somewhere off the coast of Biscayne Bay, for example, okay? Way, way, way away from us, but kind of working up the shoreline. There's 10, there's 11 o'clock at night Saturday. Then we're sitting just off of the east coast of Florida, 8 a.m. on Sunday. I'll be with you on West 2 News Sunrise. We'll be tracking this for you, right? Then from there, little by little, lifting to the north, and then by Monday early, that's when the models are showing. More than likely, this kind of makes its way in, and then afterward kind of spreads. Computer models are only so good. What we need is data from the hurricane hunters, and they are just lifting off from Lakeland Lindner on their way. This is a NOAA P3 Orion that is just departing. So let's hope that we'll be able to get all the information that we can out of them. And of course, feed that into the computer models. And of course, from there, get more and more information into us. Now, when we talk about the wave heights, right? Let's dial in here and I'm going to just zoom this in. We're working on all kinds of templates, but for right now, obviously what we want is to get the data. So let's watch this weekend and see how this plays out, okay? Wave heights, relatively low, 1 to 3, kind of building 4 to 8. But as what should become Imelda develops, okay, that's Sunday, 11 a.m. Watch how once it gets around Grand Bahama, boom, the wave action builds for us. And it looks like it's going to be Monday that we really build the waves. Monday, rough surf, rip currents, the whole deal around our coastal waters. Okay, so that's kind of where we're looking at in terms of the wave heights at this moment in time. I think that that's probably going to be the biggest deal for us. Now, when we look at the kind of graphics to give you an idea of the steering of this, right? Front arrives in our area. Cats, Tats, and Gats says, ooh, good surfing. Yeah, that's correct. So here we are Saturday. Front arrives. Okay, that's going to be the front that eventually steers this. And there's the low during the day Sunday. And you kind of get both lows there on the graphics. But there's the low being picked up and moved around. All right. Now, raw models. This is what I know is kind of a great feature here on the social channels. We're able to really dive into the raw data here together. So let's do that. Okay. This is the American GFS model. Scott says, I wouldn't trust intensity models. We had storms that got much stronger. Yeah, I mean, intensity is definitely the weaker of the modeling, right? But let's roll through time here. Okay. So this is the 18Z is just starting. So we can at least look at the 12Z from earlier. All right, they're both systems are developing. The one on the left would be Imelda. The one on the right would be Humberto. All right, the GFS keeping it off the shoreline and then putting it in to coastal South Carolina. All right, and then eventually recurving, fading, and doing its thing. And then just looking beyond, no other threats for us. All right, so that's the latest GFS that's fully run. Like I said, the 18Z is starting to come in. This is as far as we've got on the 18Z GFS. So it's just starting to come in. We don't have a lot of the data there just yet. All right. All right, let's switch over. Let's re-rack this. Let's switch over to the European model. Okay. 12Z is all we've got so far. We'll roll through time. There it is. Imelda forms, stays away from us, goes in right around the North Carolina, South Carolina border. And that time frame, just so that you know, it passes by us. That's Sunday, 11 a.m. That's Sunday, 11 p.m. That's 11 a.m. on Monday, 11 p.m. on Monday. So 11 p.m. to about 5 a.m. would be the landfall Monday into Tuesday in the Carolinas. And then afterward, it kind of fades, does its thing, just looking at the rest of the European, sloppy low pressure, but nothing else threatening. Euro AI deterministic forms gets a little bit perhaps closer to us and then starts to just do these weird ziggy zaggies and then eventually scrape up across the Outer Banks with another deal kind of forming there. Okay. All right. Ensembles. You know, when we're into tracking, especially weak tropical systems, the ensembles are where it's at. So let's look at those. There, the ensembles develop it, and the GFS is adamant about keeping this away from Florida. So that's good news. Okay, and then from there, ensembles do whatever, whatever, whatever. All right, let's look at the European ensembles. 12Z develops it. Now, I will say the European is definitely closer to us. Most of the ensembles keep it off of our coastline, but there's still some that bring it like right up to our doorstep. But the Euro AI looks like the Fujiwara effect may happen. I mean, it's possible. And then it's sloppy, and then ensembles are. Anyway, we will continue on. Euro AI ensembles. Most everything stays off of our East Coast. There are some members that try to develop something around us, but again, most of this is keeping it east of us. All right. So that's the good news. Now, you guys and gals were asking about our Futurecast model. So let's go right to it. Okay. Here's our Futurecast model. Doesn't go out for forever, but at least you can kind of see the wraparound effect there. It organizes it right in here. So that's going to be Saturday, early on Saturday, wrapping it up and getting it going and keeping it off of our coast, thankfully. But you end up with one of those kind of frightening looks, like you've got a system off of the east coast of Florida and another one way out there. For a season that's been fairly quiet, it's something. Mickey says, never say never in the tropics. Got to watch in real time. It's true. It's true. Now, a couple of you all are asking, like, what can we expect in my county? What can we expect in my county? We're just not there yet. Okay. We're just not to that point where we can have that discussion just yet. But I did want to make sure to at least pop in here and have the conversation with you. Make sure we're all good. All right, Yukon, did you change the blue of the water in the graphics package? I like it. Yes, we did. Yeah, it's a very blue now. Yeah. Florida Investor on YouTube says Matthew vibes. It's a little early to make, like direct comparisons. I'm not going to do that. There's a lot of things in play here. So it's just kind of one of those things. I think that this is probably the best way to look at it, right? So this system near us, that's Invest 94, could be a depression by this weekend. Okay. That said, we don't know where it's going to go. We don't know how strong it's going to get. There's too many questions and just not a ton of answers. All right. And that's the genuine statement. That's where we're at in the weather department. Keith on Facebook says, love your dialogue. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. What do you see for Savannah? I heard Carolinas. It looks like it wants to be more of a South Carolina, North Carolina type deal. But remember, these things are not set in stone, right? So Invest 94, look at the computer models here. Let me show you the paths. Okay. I mean, there they are. There's some feathering, so it's not completely done. We don't have it dialed in. Tom, can you explain why we see the spaghetti models showing the landfall, but the ensembles do not? Well, the ensembles, all you're seeing is, they're showing landfalls, but you're seeing them kind of overlapping. There's 50 different models over on top of each other when it comes to the ensembles. So that's why you're kind of seeing a little of this and a little of that, right? Marissa, could it last minute curve for hospital sake workers have to stay at the hospital? Look, there's not model consistency on position. There's not model consistency on intensity. So, yes, anything is on the table when it comes to Invest 94. Anything at all is on the table. Okay, honestly, right? You okay, Summer? So Pat says just get ready for plenty of wind and some rain. I wouldn't even go that far, honestly. We are just tracking to see how this plays out. Here's our 7-day forecast, okay, for the coastal communities. All right, for our coastal spots, notice rain chances were there. 30, 40, 50% coverage of rain for your Sunday, your Monday, and your Tuesday, right? And for our inland spots, the 7-day forecast isn't much worse, right? Here's a look at the 7-day forecast for our inland communities. Kind of the same idea. If anything, it's a little bit wetter at the coast than inland, but there you go. Javier says until we have a low, we don't have good model runs. That's it, man. That's the absolute truth. until we have a low form, we don't really have that there. So it's going to take some time before we can really get that good model data to be able to share that. Okay. Baxter says, hey, thank you for taking the time you do to explain any and all potential events. It's my pleasure. Eric says, love the graphics. Great work. Thank you, buddy. It's a labor of love, and man, I am nowhere near being done, but we've got some start. So here we are. All right. All right. Listen, I will see you all for coffee talk tomorrow morning. Jeremy and I are going to be doing a Tracking the Tropics broadcast tomorrow as well at 10 a.m. It's going to be a hodgepodge of new graphics and old graphics, I have a feeling. So we're going to do the best we can. All right. All right. We'll see y'all later. And of course, it is 5:58. Chief Meteorologist Tony Manolfi with the brand new model data coming up on West 2 News at 6 o'clock. Terry says graphics look really good. Thank you. We're going to